After countless days of venturing out into the world, I found people who support my cause. I finally started setting up the village of my dreams. We've partnered up with a small local settlement. They've let us use some buildings as storage. And while I've been drawing up the plans for the village layout, my shinobi have been out, defeating monsters, tilling the land, and preparing for our future. I am the leader of the Village of Light. Mother, Father, are you proud of me? Wait a minute. I'm not allowed to do lore. Hi and hello everybody, welcome back to Naruto Reborn. It is good to have you here in the Village of Light. I am your Taiyokage here, Lem Namikaze, with my sun headband with the sun behind me. And welcome to the Village of Light, the village that I am setting up because I want a brighter future for this world. So, I saw a lot of comments from the last episode, a lot of responses, a lot of questions, and a lot of you questioning why the name change and why a bunch of stuff. I uploaded a video recently that actually discusses this stuff if you want to go watch it after this video. But for now, being a Kage, my role is to make sure that this village is suitable for those who will be living in it. And at the moment, as you can see, we have very rough terrain, rough hills everywhere, there's dirt sticking out. There's all sorts happening here. I've cleared this entire area of grass. It is a plains biome, it goes back a while. But unfortunately, with all of these little bits here, you can't really build. It's screaming, "Don't build here, you can't build here, look at me, I'm a little mountain." And what we want is to say, ooh, look at that nice flat terrain, that's perfect for building. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We need to flatten that terrain. However, doing that by hand seems like a hassle. I don't even think we have enough shovels in our entire village to do that. So what other option do I have? Well, jutsu. Ah yes, jutsu, the wonderful ability our chakra gives us. And you might be thinking, well, Lem, how are you going to use jutsu to get rid of the dirt? And you would be right to think that because the Naruto mod itself doesn't have any earth jutsu in this version. You might remember in the past Naruto series a mod called Ars Magica. And that mod enabled us to make all sorts of jutsus that apply to our needs. And well, right now what we need is an earth jutsu that can help us clear this terrain. And would you looky here, lucky me. My element is earth. My nature is earth. Now Ars Magica is long gone, but it has been resurrected in a form. Mana and Artifice is the new form of Ars Magica, and we have it here on the server. So we're gonna make an earth jutsu right here and right now, step by step. Now make sure you pay attention because crafting a jutsu up is not an easy process. The first thing that we're gonna need to do is craft up something called a glyph. And a glyph is like a stone, but it requires something on it. It requires a marking of some kind. So we're going to give it a black marking and make a black glyph. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the 2 iron. We're going to use black glyphs. We're going to use the furnace. We're going to use 1 sandstone. And we're going to use 2 deep slate to create a rune forge. This is a handy little pedestal that we're going to be using a lot in this series. Next we put a bone on the rune forge. As you can see, the blue flames are going to forge and melt this bone into its very marrow until we get the ash of bone, or bone ash. Next we take an AM, which is a very common flower that we can find. We take some Vintium dust, a common ore that's in the ground, and some bone ash to create arcane compound. And what do we do with this arcane compound? Well, we can put it back on the rune forge. Let the blue flames evolve it. And after that's done, we get arcane ash instead of arcane compound. Now, with arcane ash and some Vintium dust and another flower, we can make purified Vintium dust. Is this sounding familiar to anyone? With the purified Vintium dust and some Chimorite gems, we can use some sticks as well to create a Chimorite Mana Weaver's Wand. That is a mouthful. Wands and magic and forging and runes, that just sounds like magic, right? Well, yeah. What do you think chakra is? Chakra is just ninja magic. Also, it literally was supposed to be magic. You can see the third Hokage looking through a crystal ball. They refer to as spells for a while. Chakra is a magic system. Now you might notice that this isn't the first wand I've got. I've actually got this one. And this one is called Bolt Tree Stride. And as a Namikaze, there's a special jutsu that my clan, on this server at least, are only allowed. And that jutsu happens to be within this staff given to me by my father. I traveled here fast. That's right, with this staff, I effectively have Flying Raijin, and I've marked some trees nearby, I've marked some different areas. So we have Flying Raijin Jutsu. And then this one here was given to me by my mother. A Jutsu of Light. Beautiful, isn't it? You know, my mother's the reason I called this village the Village of Light. And because of one little jutsu that she made and discovered one day. Anyway, I carry these two with me a lot. But you're probably wondering about this one now, and what can this one do? Well, we can draw some shapes in the air. Not too impressive, right? Well, you might be thinking, well, that's interesting, but what can we do with this? And what we can do is this. Turning copper into silver. And with the newly made silver, we can craft ourselves up an ornate table. However, an ornate table on its own isn't really what we want. We can go a step further and get what we actually want. With some glass and some Vintium dust, we can make an oculus. This really does sound familiar, doesn't it? The Eye of Orochi. An oculus. This will be telling us how to make a lot of jutsu. What we really want next is called an inscription table. And in order to make that, we have to make a basic table. One basic table, we need a book, an animated quill, and vellum. What is vellum? Well, you see, writing jutsu formulas on normal paper just does not work out. Average paper is just not powerful enough to handle it. So instead, what we can do is try and use some leather. But even leather isn't quite enough. Unless we put it through a process. Wring it through some water for a while and we get vellum. Next up is an animated quill, and in order to do that, we need some animus dust. Well, how do we make that? We need a mana weaving altar. Well, how do we make that? We need arcane sandstone and arcane stone. Well, how do we make that? Well, we can transmutate these things. So, why don't we get a bunch of this? 6 in particular. In fact, one more. We'll see how far we can go. And we do the same thing we did earlier. We'll transmutate it. Done. turn it into walls, grab a bucket of water, and we have a mana weaving altar. Now that we have a mana weaving altar, we can make animus dust. Take an egg, Vintium dust, and a wake bloom and put it on the altar. Then, with my Chimerite mana weaver's wand, we do a circle. And there we go, animus dust. Craft animus dust with a transmuted silver and a feather, we get an animated quill. Take all of these together, and we get an inscription table. And an inscription table. Oh, it started raining as soon as we crafted that. An inscription table is very important. This will be how we're making our jutsus from now on. However, it requires some vellum, arcane ash, and one other ingredient. Arcanist's ink, which is crafted by a purified Vintium dust, glass bottle, a flower of your choice, and an ink sac. And now with what we have here, we can craft up a jutsu. Let's go with touch, break. We write the jutsu formula carefully. And then it'll give us the materials that we need to gather in order to make this jutsu. That's 2 Vintium dust, a brown glyph, a feather, an infused silk, iron shovel, grey glyph, mystic focus miner, iron pickaxe, clay, and an axe. Let's go get those. And after almost getting everything we need, there are 2 things on this list that we haven't seen before. The infused silk and the mystic focus miner. Now how do we make that? Well, you make a mystic focus miner by just some iron and some glass. It's like a little prism to help focus energy. And then with some wool, some string, and a mystic focus miner, we can make the silk we need. Just like that. Okay, we have all the ingredients needed. And now it's time to craft everyone's favorite thing. Chalk. The joke is so old now! Okay, so to craft chalk, we need some bone ash, which we've already made, paper, Vintium dust, and flint. And that gives us chalk. Now you might notice I have a thing on this side of my screen. That is the ritual that we now need to make. And we make it by drawing on the ground. Think of this as scribing the jutsu formula on the ground, and then we'll put in the ingredients needed as the jutsu formula is being used up. At least that's the easiest way to think about this. Okay, and with some purified Vintium dust, now we can see where to put all these things. Shovel, may I ask you a question? Brown glyph, Vintium dust. Vintium dust. Grey glyph, feather. Pickaxe, focus. Infused silk, clay. And that should be everything. And then oh. Triangle. Square. Square. There we go. Earth release, dig jutsu. Ooh. Ooh. It's a lot more traily than I remember. But let's test it out, shall we? So this will be helpful. I think I'll be right back once I've managed to flatten and level and smooth out a lot of this area. Because unfortunately, I can't do time lapses in this version. Hi. Hello. Hi. We're here to tell you about Super thanks! Go!
Super thanks is a way to support creators that you enjoy.
Perhaps you find their content elegant and have funds to spare. Super thanks is a way to donate to creators and help support them in making content.
If you want to, you can click this thanks button to give a donation/tip to a creator that you enjoy.
And if you want to give a donation to LemsCraft, we appreciate it. But we also just appreciate you being here and reading all those comments you leave. Thank you for all of your support. And back to the episode.
Hey, shouldn't we mention Nitrado?
And finally, as you can see, the entire area has been degrassed and smoothed out. It has taken me a week, 2 weeks. It has taken me 2 weeks to do this.
It took me 2 weeks to do this.
Basically, I've taken the entire biome and little bits outside the biome too. I stopped over there at that forest and a forest over there, and I have completely changed the terrain. None of this is the same as before, as you saw in the pictures. Well, little bits here and there are the same, but most of it has changed. So when doing terrain modification like this, doing terraforming, what you want to do is you want to find large pieces of flat land that you can build on, but you don't want to completely just make your biome, you know, completely flat and like sea level. What you want to do is you want to find the elevation levels that have the most terrain on them, like this one, and you want to keep that terrain level. However, if it's like this, where you can't really build much on it, it's very small and like it just druts out, you probably should erase it. And then there are little areas like this still around where I've made an outline for where I need more terrain to be, but I haven't quite filled it in. I've even done over here by the village. Who did that? Who has done this? Maybe I should send some shinobi out to the end. I'm getting tired of Enderman. There's still some terrain issues here with the lake, like that boulder and this bit of land. However, one of the most difficult things when it comes to terraforming is deciding what to keep and what to erase. And personally, when you find neat structures and rocks like that, you kind of want to keep them. Now, that's not always the case, but a lot of the time it will be. For instance, I do want to keep this mountain here. However, I do want to push it back several blocks, which I'm not going to do this week because I've already taken way too long to make this video. I promised it would be out in a week. This jutsu has been a lifesaver trying to do this, as well as Blacksmith Danny and her tools. Yeah, Blacksmith Danny Hyuga has been making us up some tools and providing it for us in these chests. I'll take that. And providing up some tinker tools too for us to use. And they have been an invaluable asset in making this village. So Lem, what is the plan and idea now? I saw in the intro it said that you were drawing up village plans. Well, yeah, actually, I was. We had a village meeting together where we discussed what we want to happen with the village and where we want things. And here is the plan and what we have drawn out for the village. As you can see, it takes up a lot of land. When I first proposed the idea of a village to everyone, I had two main requests. The first request is that it has to be a very large area. And the reason for that is I want to be able to have plenty of houses, plenty of buildings, and be able to go across it in like more than 10 leaps. And my second request is that it has to be above ground, which is why I originally said no to putting the village inside the mountain. Plus, the mountain wasn't big enough. However, that mountain is now a part of this village, like the whole thing. As well as most of that biome. There's another village over there. Let's not like that one. We've got all that forest over there. We got part over there. It's a huge landmass area. So we have the history village where we partnered up with the villagers here in order to make our bigger village of lights. We have this huge hill here where we've decided the market area is going to go alongside here. We may or may not be removing this river yet, I'm not entirely sure. But the market area stretches all the way over to this village, which will be torn down, but the villagers will be moved over to the history village. Over here, we have the area that is going to be made into a zoo. Amy is in charge of that project, collecting animals and putting them in the zoo, however I will be helping. Over here, by the beach side and rocks, we will be having a hot spring area. It's a lovely vast area, got a lot of water. There's going to be many buildings here. Over here, we have a tourist destination. Now, nothing has happened with the terrain over here because I've been busy with the main sections of the village. But the plan is we're going to tear down some of these trees, we're going to flatten the terrain, and we're going to make a market area slash tourist area. And what we plan to have is a few ninja games over here we can make different rides using creates, different things that would attract tourism, restaurants, and all sorts of other stuff. And since this is a huge area, I do want to know, what do you want to see in the village? In the market area, in the tourist area, in what kind of shops do you want us to have? What kind of stores? Because we have a lot of terrain to work with. All of these trees gotta go eventually. We cross over to here to continue the market area, or should I say the tourist area? It's both. It's a tourist market area, and it continues on for a good while. Over there on that other island with all the trees, we will be having a gate to let people in. And I actually am going to be in charge of making the gates, and I'm in charge of a lot of infrastructure for the village as its leader. So stuff like pathways, organizing where to build, and organizing the walls and the gates and stuff, that's all on me to do. As we get to this forest, this is going to be the training arenas. So these entire forests are either going to stay the same or they're going to be modified in order to be used for training ninja. There will be 4 sections in total, all split off with different iron bar sections. Either that or walls. I'm not in charge of this area in particular, so I'm going to be having someone else do that. And then over here where the forest starts to change will be the tuning exam arena and also the training area. I believe Invincio wants to make the tuning exams arena, or so he said. There is a huge hole over here, so that has a lot of potential for some very dangerous and cool activities. We can even have a full-on ninja training exercise just in this area, but that's why we have a huge amount of land for that as well. Again, have I got it in your head yet? That the land here is massive, and that's because I really wanted a lot of area to work with. Whenever I see people making Naruto Ninja Villages, or whenever I see people making stuff in Minecraft, they never take into account how much land they're gonna need in order to fit things in. And one thing that I try to make sure I have is a lot of land to work with. This is Meditation Island. This is where people come spiritually to cleanse themselves, to cleanse the mind. Again, hasn't been worked on yet, but we do plan to work on it. What I'm thinking is we can open up the little area there, or maybe around the island, and have some water rushing in, and underground have like a little waterfall type thing. Maybe around some amethyst crystal. So it gives a little ting sound. That might be peaceful while people are trying to meditate. We can have a little underground section as well as the up top section. As you can see, the water does change there. It becomes a lot hotter. So we're thinking about installing a hot spring there as well in order for anyone who's been training in the various facilities to go rest. Because rest is very important when it comes to training. We have this forest that outlines our border at the moment, which I will be going in and making a wall. We have the huge mountain again. And one thing we tried to discuss is there's a lot of land on this mountain, so we really wanted to know what we were going to do with it. It would be a waste if we didn't use the land on top of this mountain. And so what we have decided, in a lot of cities, you have kind of like a national park or like a place that people can go that's like more naturist, more relaxed. The top of the mountain is going to be a park. So all of this area is going to be turned into like a nature reserve, a nice little park area. You can walk around, sit down by a bench. There'll be like food stands maybe here and there. It is a nice big piece of land, very peaceful. I want to try and keep the natural aesthetic as much as I can. So it's more or less just going to have pathways running through it, benches, that kind of stuff. And yes, this is the same hill mountain area that my face is going to go on because, as Amy said in the first episode, that has to happen. And then over here, we have the farm that's been worked on by Amy and Dark. It is a lovely farm section. It isn't as big as I think it should be yet, because I personally want it to go all the way back there, and these hummingbirds are so loud. They help with pollination of the crops here. Mimi Inazuka, otherwise known as Amy, has been gathering up these little birdies and these animals to help us with pollination for all the crops that we're going to need. Because we want restaurants and various food items like ramen, curry, fried chicken, we are going to need a lot of plants. As you can see here, Amy has a lot of dogs. And then over here, Amy has been collecting animals but has struggled with cows. I want to help with that as soon as I can. So we're going to have an animal farm around this section, with plenty of space for the animals to roam around, There's also going to be another village gate exit over the water here, so that Ninja can just go ahead and hop out onto the ocean. Because I believe this opens up to an ocean. So that's the plan going forward. You can see the market area like way better from up here. Personally, I'm not sure if I want to like cover the land over this water here to give us more room, but I will be discussing it with the village. One of my key points of information as well when pitching the idea of the village to everyone is that I would like very clear and cut communication on what is happening and when it is happening. So that no one has to feel left out. Everyone can contribute. I am available to contact by anyone within the village. And everyone is free to ask questions and question what we're doing and have some input and say. I originally had very different ideas for what the village should be, but through everyone's suggestions, the village layout did change. And so that's how we've got the village idea that we have today. And also, I do want to know your input too, because you're going to help me make this village. Yeah, that's right, you're going to help. I want some ideas off of you for markets, for shops, for games, for everything. Oh, and I forgot, the last area on our destination, this huge lake. We thought it was an ocean at first until we realized it was closed off by the land. Yeah, we're keeping this as a lake. We might make some little islands here and there, and you're going to be able to sail from one shoreline to the other. So you can go to the village market area or the tourist market area over there. There'll be little islands there, probably with more attractions and games on them. And the last location that I wanted to visit is where my mansion is going to go. As the Kage, I get an office, I get a mansion. It'll be a little bit like the White House or a parliament building, and it's going to go here. The issue is, it's not big enough, this piece of land, so I'm going to move the mountain back a few blocks before I start construction on it. And that, so far, is the Village of Light. And so the plan that I'm working on now is clearing up this river a little bit. I'm okay with all the land inside and all the fish and everything, and the flowers on top are a very nice touch, but in Naruto villages, they tend to have walls that cut off the dirt from going into the water. And that is the thing that's very important when you're building in Minecraft, is trying to make your builds seem as realistic as you can. And when you've got this huge pile of land up here and this water that's constantly eroding the bottom, you risk that land falling into the water. So it is very unsafe to build up here right now. because this land, if you build something on it, it could just tumble into that water, and that's not good. That's a lot of damage, that's a lot of hassle. So what's the solution? Well, you get a bunch of stone, get some nice sturdy rock that would take much, much longer to erode. You pile up the dirt against the very sturdy rock, you put some supports in the ground, and then it becomes sturdy. And my plan is to do that on both sides of this lake, and it'll look something like it does in Naruto villages. And then I'm thinking maybe not a drawbridge, but some sort of bridge that comes out and connects these two lands together, because you don't want everyone trying to walk across the water. So that's my plan for now, which is going to take a while because I have to go underwater and I have to get rid of stuff like this in order to put this down. You might be wondering why I'm doing that underwater too. It's because the looks all add up. Yeah, this block is just cut tough, which is from the Create mod, but I figured it looks smooth enough to be like a nice concrete type block, and I can get blocks fairly easily. So in the end, it will be something like this. I'm actually considering not having these blocks go all the way up there, because that seems like it'll be a hassle. Maybe what I'll do instead is carve out the terrain and maybe have little stairwells going down and make this like a path area. I'll discuss it with my villagers, but this is the basic idea, to have the water walled off. Now that we have this sorted, let's find the middle of this mountain. I've marked it off as around there. I think that's about right according to my eyes. That's probably a bit wrong, but I'm counting the major mass more so than the dips on the side. This should be about the middle. I'm going to make a temporary bridge out of this log, and we're going to use that to find where the center of a path will go for here. In our private Naruto Reborn Discord, I did a poll amongst my villagers to see which area would they like me to try and refine and path first. And what I found was the home area is the one that people want most. So that's the one I'm going to be working on. I'm just making this out of logs because it'll look like I cut a really big tree down. There we go. Which then brings us up to about here. So this is where the center line would go. For now, since I'm not sure exactly where we're going to put the bridge at, I'm going to start from about here. There's a nice strip of land for where the pathway will be. In past series, when we made strips of land like this, we would used to use a variation of dirt that was in the chisel mod, but since we don't have that here, Create has a nice substitute for us. We can use some of this, cut granite. And you might think, well, this doesn't look very good, especially if I'm just having the cut granite like this. And so when I first saw what it looked like, I was the same way. I was like, I don't really know if I want that as a village path. But then what I did is I did some tweaking around in a creative world, and I tried doing what I normally do, which is try and mess up the path and make it look a little more natural. And I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. Alright, now that we've got a nice strip of road, the next thing we're going to do is break it. No, I'm not kidding. Every now and again, just somewhere, doesn't matter where, maybe 2 in a row, we're just going to break a bit. We're going to try and make it as messy as we can. But since we're human, we are going to inevitably make a pattern because that's just how we are. Do this a few times, try not to make patterns as much as you possibly can. Make it as random-ish as you can. And then once I've done that to the path, now I need to do it to the outside of the path too. And for this, I can go a little bit further out. So I can do like that, I can do like that, which I've already done over there, so I don't want to do it again. This is another case of try to be as random as possible, but only go 2 blocks out from the center path. Any further than 2 blocks out, it won't look right. And so the next step is to get some brown mushroom blocks, some glow lichen, and some rooted dirt. Oh, and also some uncut granite. And then, every now and again, just gonna place one. And then go through again with the brown mushroom, just placing it randomly. And then again with the rooted dirt. And then you can go again with the unpolished granite. Try not to put it next to other sources of it. Oh, and when you find two in a row like this, replace. Then on these outer parts, you can also put some of this cut granite. And that is how to make a dirty looking path. Although in some areas you might decide, well, it's not quite dirty enough, and you put another block in some areas. But for the most part, it doesn't look clean, it doesn't look too uniform. But it doesn't look all that great either right now, does it? And we have a solid pathway in the middle that is made up of various blocks. I can dirty and muddle this up a little bit more, but right now I'm going to focus on the outside. What we can do on the outside is if I add maybe a little more here, a little more here, just dirty it up even more on the outside. I can actually start to blend the outside with the inner. So now and again, I'm just going to place a little bit of glow lichen. And what that's going to do is it's going to look like grass is like overgrowing on some of these blocks. And we don't do it on all of them, just a few. This helps give it a little bit more character. And then the next thing we can do is on the inner side, now and again, just place some moss. Oh yeah, prime place for moss. Now it's got just that little bit more texture. I'm just going to places where I feel like there's a lot of this uncut stuff, and I'm just digging out another hole to put something else in. We don't want it to look too uniform either, so I'm trying to avoid that. And that is how we get our pathways. And so, we know where everything's gonna be, we've started our pathways, we know where the mansion's going. We're making a home in the Village of Light. We even have a jutsu with us, custom made, my first one. But for now, that's everything. The sun's setting, it's getting real low. Don't forget to super thanks if you've enjoyed the episode. I really hope you've enjoyed. I've enjoyed spending time with you, and I'll see you next time.